James Franklin does not look good in the latest viral moment for him or Penn State. And that's a shame because it certainly appears as if James Franklin has done the right thing, that he acted correctly, which unfortunately seems to be a rarity at times in college football. If you haven't seen it, Penn State had a couple of football players kicked off their team earlier this summer, and they were charged with rape, sexual assault. And at a press conference earlier this week, a university spokesperson made a statement and said, we're not going to answer any questions about that. Then two reporters asked questions about that. That led James Franklin to just simply walk away and let the PR person come back, say, do you guys need me to read the statement again? We're not going to answer questions about that. And the reaction has been frankly stupid from some people, because the idea that, like, in their eyes, the PR people said, don't ask about it, and then you asked about it. I don't understand what the issue is. Right. Reporters for newspapers, digital outlets, TV, radio, whatever, they're not PR. They're not just there to do whatever it takes to make Penn State look good. Like, they have a job to do, and finding out that story is part of the job. James Franklin makes a lot of money. I mean, like, a lot of money. And not just for the average person. For people who make a lot of money, James Franklin makes a lot of money. And part of the thing that comes with that is answering questions in difficult times and facing the music. And so when you just walk away because you don't like the questions that are being asked of you, and you then throw some poorly paid sports information director into the lion's den to make them the ones to answer the questions, is like, it's just not a great look, because it's not difficult. If James Franklin, from the university, from his own personal attorneys, whatever the case may be, has been told, hey, don't comment on this, it's really, really simple that when somebody asks you that question, to say, I don't have a comment on that. And then when they follow up, I'm like, well, I'm not gonna speak to that. I'm unable to comment on that. That's all you have to do. You don't have to run away. You don't have to skedaddle. None of those things are required of you. None of those things are a good idea. You stand there and you say, I'm not gonna speak to that. I'm not gonna answer those questions. I don't have comment on that. Some variation of that. It's really, really simple. And frankly, James Franklin's been doing this long enough that he should know that, or he should have practiced that there is enough history there in his career as the leader of now two different Power 4 programs, that there are going to be questions you don't like. And that's okay. But to just, like, walk away because you don't like the question is insane to me. And whether that is James Franklin, or whether that is any other coach, any other figure in this situation. Because, and again, it certainly appears as if James Franklin did the right thing. He found out that this is an issue for his players. You're gone. And it sounds as if it's something similar happened at Vanderbilt, that there was a reported sexual assault and he got rid of the people. It looks as if James Franklin did the things you're supposed to do in those situations. He didn't try to cover it up. He didn't try to find a reason for why those players should be able to stay in his program. He did the ethical, moral thing that any human being with a conscience would do. That he didn't put football at the top. He didn't put football at the forefront. He put human beings and doing the right thing first. And that matters, and it should matter, and he should be commended for that. But then you can still screw it up when presented with the opportunity. And I understand that the reality of the situation is that he's not going to, like, the question was, when did you know these guys weren't going to be a part of your team? And while that's an innocuous question, right? Like, you can say, the second I found out about it was when I knew that they weren't going to be a part of our team going forward. But if you've been instructed not to comment on it, you don't have that ability. So stand there and say, I've been instructed not to comment on this, whether it's from my personal attorney, whether it's from university attorneys, my president, athletic director, whatever the case may be. I've been instructed not to comment on that. It ends it right there. There is no story. There is no, oh God, how did you screw that up? None of that exists because like it doesn't take all that much to just stand there and say, I can't speak to that. I'm not going to be able to provide comment. I have no comment. It doesn't make you look bad. It doesn't make anything. It squashes everything for the most part right then. Like there might be follow-up questions. And the more you say, I can't comment on that, the fewer questions are going to come out. Like you're seeing the Marshawn Lynch, I'm just here so I won't get fined. The questions don't get more creative. They stop when you just flat out say, I'm not going to answer that. But for an SID or a PR person to chastise people for having the audacity to ask a question, I specifically asked you not to ask that. Right? Like, you're not my boss. You don't pay my bills. I don't work PR for you. Like, there is and it's an issue that I've had with college football media, and I'll continue to have college football media, that like you're not just supposed to be a cheerleader for your team, your fan base, that your head coach can do no wrong. Like if your head coach is employing somebody that's beating their wife, that's not a good thing. If your head coach covered up sexual assault that was rampant inside your program, that's not a good thing, and you should ask questions about it. And then on the flip side of it, there are very few universities who should have learned a really difficult lesson about covering things up, having too much control. And Penn State is one of them. So when a situation arises about sexual impropriety, Penn State has to have its ducks in a row due to its history. And so when you come off looking immature, arrogant, condescending, and just flat out bad, it's not a good look for the football program, which I think stinks and is unfair because it sure sounds as if James Franklin did the right thing. He acted with integrity. So stand there and answer questions with integrity instead of skedaddling at the first opportunity of like, oh, you know what, this might be difficult. I'm going to bail. You football coaches and universities especially are so used to controlling everything that the second that they don't have control, they freak out and don't know what to do. And it's really simple to just be like, you know, a normal human being. And I think James Franklin failed in this situation. And that stinks. Hopefully, it gets better down the line. That'll do it for today's episode of the Daily Huddle. Appreciate you making us a part of your day, however it is, wherever it is you're doing so. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you're getting all the great college football content we are pumping out. If you're listening on the podcast feed, drop a 5-star review. It goes a long way in helping out the channel. I'll see you tomorrow for another episode of the Daily Huddle.